Welcome to this edition of the Heartland Crime Stopper Show. Glad to have you with us today. Today we have as our guest Detective Derek Blanton from the Winter Haven Police Department. Derek, so nice to have you here today.
Chip, thank you for having me.
Exactly. Now, tell us a little bit about yourself. I always like to have our guests come on, learn a little bit about them, where you're from, and how you got into law enforcement. You had kind of an interesting story of how you ended up in Winter Haven.
Yeah, I'm from Lakeland, Florida. Went to Lakeland High School, graduated there, and went on to Florida State University. Graduated there with a criminology degree in 1999, so it's been a little while. And after school, I started working at the Florida Department of Children and Families as a protective investigator, child protective investigator. And following a couple of years there, I went to the Department of Corrections as an adult probation officer. After being there for about 8 years, I went to the Criminal Justice Institute and got my police standards and got hired on with the Winter Haven Police Department back in 2010, and I've been there ever since.
Well, a lot of people think when they start their career that I want to be a detective when I start out, but they don't understand there's a long road before you get to make detective, if you will. Tell us how that came about with Winter Haven.
That's true, and I was one of those people. I wanted to be a detective as soon as I could. However, you got to go through the ranks. You start off in patrol, working long night shifts, long day shifts. I did that for about 5 years. And you have to take several classes through the Criminal Justice Institute, which helps kind of further your education as an officer in law enforcement. And when the time came when I was eligible according to our standards at the police department, I interviewed for the position of detective and eventually got it.
Well, congratulations. I know that's a big step for many officers, and that's one of the things they always want to do because it's so different. And it's not anything like they show on TV, so it's a lot of hard work and long hours as well.
That's true. TV kind of glorifies it quite a bit, but it's very satisfying once you are able to kind of delve into a case and see the case through all the way to an arrest and a prosecution. It is very satisfying, but it's nothing like it is portrayed on television. Exactly.
Now, you said you had 8 years as a parole and probation officer, is that correct?
That is correct.
I would imagine that really helped with your interviewing skills and learning to read people and talking to people. Plus, that legal side of it, you have different thresholds, if you will, as a probation officer and talking and going to people's homes that as a police officer that you don't have. Can you kind of explain that to our viewers?
Yeah, as a probation officer, you're basically an officer of the court. The court gives guidelines on what the people on probation are required to do, and you have to make sure that they are following those. You have more rights as a probation officer to go into people's homes as compared to law enforcement. The reason that the courts allow that is to ensure that people are complying with their probation, not only outside of the house, but inside of their homes as well. As a law enforcement officer, in order to get into houses or cars or other types of structures, we have to go through a search warrant. And that process is sometimes kind of tedious. You have to get approval from a judge and have probable cause in order to do so. As a probation officer, your probable cause doesn't exist. They have what's called reasonable suspicion. Reasonable suspicion is a little lower on the threshold as far as requirements needed to gain access to certain places.
Yeah, so basically you could go in unannounced because that's what you're trying to do to make sure these people are abiding by the terms of their probation. And I'm sure most people are very good on following what they need to do, but there's always those exemptions that think they're smarter than the system.
That's true. That holds true in the probation world and law enforcement world as well. But as a probation officer, yes, you do have a little bit of an element of surprise, and you can show up unannounced and basically do a walkthrough or a search of somebody's house or property. And with law enforcement, even though you may show up unannounced, you still have other guidelines that you have to consider in order to make all the evidence that's found proper.
Exactly. Well, these people have already been arrested by law enforcement. They've gone to court and they promised the judge, I'm going to behave, I'm going to be able to do this, this, and this, and then I will have done my time, if you will. So it's incumbent upon them to do that, and we just have to make sure that they are walking the walk as long as just talking the talk.
Exactly, and that's the probation officer's job, is to ensure that they are following court orders, to prove to the judge and the court that they are able to move on beyond the mistake that they had and become a productive member of society again.
Exactly. Now, one of the key elements of Crime Stoppers is that when we get an anonymous tip, we give it to the agency that has jurisdiction anywhere, because we cover Polk, Highlands, and Hardy County. So we have like 70 different agencies that we work with, and I know we with all of them. But when we send stuff to Winter Haven Police Department as a tip, I know y'all have a very active unit in shoplifting cases and property crimes. Tell us what happens when we send a tip and you get it on your desk.
Well, the Crime Stopper tips are very helpful. Basically what we do is, when we have a theft in, let's say, Walmart, which is equipped with surveillance cameras everywhere, we get clips of the crime or the people involved in the crime and get that off to Crime Stoppers, who then puts it out there for the internet and the public for people to see. Once Crime Stoppers gets the tip and sends it back to the agency, in this case the Winter Haven Police Department, we're able to follow up on those tips as far as names, locations of these people, and eventually, a lot of the times, help us assist in making an arrest.
Yeah, that's so important, and I want our viewers to know that when they make a tip, it just doesn't sit on a desk, that you actively do pursue it on that, and there's certain steps you have to do. Now, I know that a lot of people, even though they have their picture, they always want to say it's not them, but that's kind of hard to dispute many times, isn't it?
It is, and it happens. People will literally sit there and look at their picture on the internet or on some type of viewing screen and still deny that it's them. We have other ways to confirm their identity, and that's usually through witnesses or other family members or people that know them. And once we're able to do that, despite what they're saying, it still helps us assist in an arrest.
It's not like we send you a name and you go out and arrest them. There's still a lot of paperwork and groundwork that you as investigators have to do and meet that criteria of probable cause to make an arrest.
Right. Each tip is considered a brand new part of the investigation. Once we get a tip, we follow up on it as far as, like I said, making contact with the person listed, trying to get them positively identified. We want to hear what they have to say also, because there's always two sides to every story. And once we're able to gather some of that information, if the tip's going to help us reach that probable cause, then we'll go ahead and make the arrest.
Now, I think it was your agency, I don't know if it was your case or not, that actually one of the suspects saw their picture on the Facebook page and came in and talked to you before you could even get out to talk to her.
That did happen at the Winter Haven Police Department. The young man saw himself on a picture from Walmart, as a matter of fact, and came in and wanted to basically clarify what his part of the story was. So once he did that, it did lead to him being arrested because he had stolen a few items, but he did come clean and wanted to kind of clear his name the best he could.
Yeah, a lot of folks don't realize the severity of what they're doing. They think, I'm just going to take a toothpaste or deodorant or a battery or something, and not realized in the grand scheme of things, even though it's small to them, all these thefts add up, and it's you and I as taxpayers supporting the business, and paying the higher cost to cover for the people that are stealing, that it really has a big impact, even for just a small item. Also, just in the time it takes for you to work this case up and get it in court, and having to testify and doing depositions. There's a myriad of things. It's not just a simple arrest and saw suspect arrested and 10-8. I'm back in service.
Right. It's definitely way more detailed than that. Just stealing, for instance, a $10 item from Walmart costs Walmart the money to pay the item back, to include their investigation, because they have loss prevention employees who do their own investigations to help law enforcement. They also have insurance costs as far as the store goes, and then when the law enforcement gets involved, we have cost of investigation, and that includes the time that it takes for us to delve into these investigations. Other costs such as obtaining videos on disk or jump drives, and anything else that kind of helps us move the investigation that may cost the police department money ultimately ends up costing the taxpayers the money. So small things do add up quickly.
And I would probably, as most people assume, that this is not the first time this person has stolen something. Maybe the first time they have gotten caught or gotten arrested. But do you see a pattern or a common thread in cases like that?
Well, with retail theft, it does appear that it's keep going until you get caught, almost. That's not to say that somebody has done it before and realized they made a mistake and never did it again, because I'm sure that does happen. A lot of these individuals involved in these cases have been caught stealing before, or just haven't been caught and this is their first time, but it doesn't mean that they didn't try before. The ultimate hope is that they don't continue. And hopefully sometimes with, if law enforcement has to be involved, it'll help change their mind in the future, hopefully.
Okay. Well, Derek, thank you for coming on the show today. So glad to have you, and thank you for sharing your history, and we appreciate your work with the Winter Haven Police Department.
Okay, thank you for having me.
To take a look at some of our most recent cases that Crime Stoppers is profiling. If you have any information on any of these suspects or any of these crimes, please contact Heartland Crime Stoppers. You can call us at 1-800-226-TIPS, 1-800-226-8477. You can text us. You can also submit a tip by the website. So here are our most recent cases.
The Lakeland Police Department needs your help in identifying these suspects of a residential burglary and credit card fraud that occurred on January 14, 2016 in the city of Lakeland. If you have any information on these suspects, please call Heartland Crime Stoppers at 800-226-TIPS. Polk County Sheriff's detectives are seeking the public's help with a residential burglary that occurred in the Loma Vista Drive area of Davenport. The burglary occurred Saturday, January 23, 2016 at 5840 Loma Vista Drive West. Two suspects seen here in video surveillance photos broke into the house via the rear sliding glass window and removed several jewelry boxes. They were possibly driving a white SUV. Anyone with information who wants to remain anonymous and be eligible for a cash reward is asked to call 800-226-TIPS. Polk County Sheriff's detectives are seeking the public's help in a retail theft investigation at approximately 9:30 p.m. on Saturday, January 23, 2016. Two black male subjects entered the CVS store on U.S. Highway 98 North in Lakeland and removed 4 cases of beer without paying. One black male appeared to be thin, wearing an orange shirt with black sleeves and jeans. The other black male appeared to be bald and wearing a gray hoodie with jeans. The two subjects quickly left the store and fled north on U.S. Highway 98 North in Lakeland. The Auburndale Police Department wants to know if you can identify the black male who was seen removing the victim's Samsung Galaxy Note cell phone from the store counter of a Wawa in Auburndale on the 15th of January, 2016. The suspect has long dreads, possibly with some highlighted in lighter color. He was wearing a black shirt, blue jean shorts, and multicolored shoes with red laces. He was carrying a baby in a darker colored body harness and was accompanied by a white female with long pink or red striped hair and dark roots. She was wearing a sleeveless purple and pink paisley ankle-length dress. If you can identify this couple, please contact the Auburndale Police Department at 863-965-5555. Wanted for 3 counts of murder is 25-year-old Jonathan Smith, whose last known address is 35 Northwest Street, 44th Street in Miami. He has a Polk County warrant for his arrest for 3 counts of first-degree murder, 1 count of attempted murder, and 1 count armed burglary in the 3 homicides and attempted homicides that occurred on Wednesday, January 6th, 2016 at 23 14 East Magnolia Drive, Unit 2 in Lakeland. Now, Smith is believed to be in South Florida and is considered armed and dangerous. Hey, is that a bottle of perfume in your pocket? Well, actually, yes, 7 to be exact. Polk County Sheriff's Office detectives are seeking information about a suspect seen shoplifting at JCPenney's located in Posner Park, 6200 Grandview Parkway in Davenport. Monday, January 11th, the suspect, seen here in surveillance, concealed 7 bottles of perfume in his pants and exited the store without paying. Around 7:50 p.m. on Saturday, January 9th, an unknown suspect wearing a mask, dark clothing, and gloves entered the Express Food Mart located at 2104 Colonial Avenue in unincorporated Lakeland. The suspect displayed a firearm, demanding money from the cash register. After stealing an undisclosed amount of cash, the suspect fled on foot and possibly got into a dark green Chevrolet S10 truck. The suspect is described as a white male, 6 feet tall, average build, wearing black pants, a hooded sweatshirt, and a monkey printed on the front, camouflage or dark mask, gloves, and armed with a chrome and black semi-automatic handgun. Can you locate either one of these individuals? Ashraf Abukdir and Isaac Abukdir. Brothers are wanted on attempted second-degree murder, and they need to be located. These brothers were out on bond for 4 counts of attempted second-degree murder stemming from a June 2014 incident in Lakeland. They have now absconded, and their bonds have been revoked. They previously lived at 1352 South Covey Circle in Lakeland, and it is believed they are in Tampa or Plant City. If you have any information on either of these two, please call Heartland Crime Stoppers at 800-226-TIPS or click on the Give a Tip tab. You will remain anonymous, and if your tip results in an arrest, you could be eligible for a cash reward of up to $3,000. Lakeland Police Department needs your help in identifying these suspects of a retail theft that occurred December 19, 2015 in the city of Lakeland. If you have any information, please call the Lakeland Police Department at 863-834-8969 or contact Heartland Crime Stoppers. Lakeland Police need your help in identifying these suspects of a retail theft that occurred on December 23, 2015 in the city of Lakeland. Please contact the Lakeland Police Department or Heartland Crime Stoppers at 800-226-TIPS. On January 15, 2016, the body of Robert Banks, 31 years old, of Lakeland, was found in the Ricklome Management Area in Sumter County. Mr. Banks was the victim of a murder. If you have any information on Mr. Banks and who may be involved in this murder, please call Heartland Crime Stoppers at 800-226-TIPS. Now, you will remain anonymous, and if your tip results in an arrest, you could be eligible for a cash reward of up to $3,000.
2016 marks the 50th anniversary of Crime Stoppers, and I thought I would just share with you how Crime Stoppers got its start and how it operates. It all began in Albuquerque, New Mexico. A young detective by the name of Greg McAleese was investigating the robbery and murder of Michael Carmen. Michael Carmen was working an extra shift for a co-worker at a gas station in Albuquerque to make extra money for his upcoming wedding, which was 2 weeks away. That evening, the station was robbed, and Michael Carmen was shot in the stomach with a shotgun at point-blank range. Michael Carmen was rushed to the hospital and went directly into surgery due to his severe injuries. Michael Carmen died on the operating table before he could tell detectives anything about the suspects. Detectives had no information from the victim, and after several weeks of intense investigation, witnesses still could not be found. Detective McAleese had absolutely nothing to work with to solve this robbery homicide. But Detective McAleese came up with an idea. He would make a reenactment of the robbery, and with the help of some friends at a local TV station, he would run the reenactment on the news in the hopes that someone would see it and come forward with information. He was desperate. Detective McAleese also decided he would offer a reward for information that helped solve the case. He also decided that he would keep the identity of anyone who provided any information completely anonymous. The reenactment ran on TV, and within a few hours, Detective McAleese got a call from someone who said they remembered the night of the robbery and the homicide of Michael Carmen. The caller advised he was driving past the station when they heard a loud bang and saw a car speed away from the gas station. The caller was able to give a good description of the car. Finally, Detective McAleese had something to work with, a vehicle description. The caller kept giving information. He knew where the car was parked in a nearby apartment complex, and he told Detective McAleese where to find it. This was much more than what Detective McAleese had hoped and worked so hard to find. He had a tip, he had a suspect vehicle, and he had the location of the vehicle. It was a tip delivered on the proverbial silver platter. 72 hours later, 2 men were arrested for the robbery and homicide of Michael Carmen, as well as being charged with a string of other armed robberies. But something happened that Detective McAleese had not foreseen. The phone kept ringing with information on other unsolved crimes, one which solved a rape case where the suspect was previously unknown. Detective McAleese then realized that fear of reprisal and apathy were the primary reasons why the public tended not to call authorities with information they knew on criminal activities. People were afraid to get involved for fear of possible retribution or perhaps being identified as a witness and then having to testify in a criminal trial. He designed a system where the public could anonymously provide details of crime events. This system focuses on community involvement and participation, taking advantage of every possible media opportunity to publicize unsolved crimes and offering cash rewards for information leading to the arrest of a suspect. Crime Stoppers Today is an international organization. In the United States, since 1976, anonymous tips to Crime Stopper organizations has resulted in 674,117 arrests. It has cleared over 1 million unsolved cases. It has paid rewards of $1 million. It has recovered property valued at $1 billion and drugs valued at $3 billion, for a total of just over $4 billion in recovered property and narcotics. Did you get that? $4.1 billion worth of stolen property and illegal drugs have been recovered by someone leaving an anonymous tip with Crime Stoppers. $1 million in rewards have been paid out to tipsters for simply making a phone call. Now, you are eligible for a cash reward of up to $3,000 from Heartland Crime Stoppers if the tip results in an arrest, the recovery of stolen property, or the recovery of illegal drugs or narcotics. Any one of those 3 things will qualify you for a reward. You must, however, make the tip to Crime Stoppers. You cannot call the sheriff or the police department with information and then ask for a Crime Stoppers reward later. You must call Crime Stoppers. We are designed to help solve unsolved crimes or crimes that have already occurred. We are not equipped to handle emergency calls or crimes in progress. If a crime is in progress, please call 911. Now, you can leave a tip 4 different ways. By telephone, 1-800-226-TIPS. That's 1-800-226-8477. You can also leave it on our website at www.heartlandcrimestoppers.com or on our Facebook page, Heartland Crime Stoppers Florida. Just click on the Give a Tip tab and fill in the fields and hit send. You can also send a text to us. Just text the word TIP 196 plus the information to crimes. That's 274637. Now make sure you tell us where the crime took place, including the city and the state. A street address alone can make it difficult to get the information to the right agency, so we do need the city. The fourth way to submit a tip is by downloading the Tip Submit app to your smartphone or device. Now, no matter how you choose to submit your tip, you will never be asked your name, where you live, or how you know about the crime. We do not record any phone calls or use caller ID. We do not use tracking cookies or record your IP address. You remain anonymous. Now, when you complete your tip, you will be given a tip ID number. That works for the phone tips, the web tips, the text tips, and for the app tips. This is the only way we know who you are, so record that tip and keep it in a safe place. Now, to check on the status of your tip to see if you qualify for a reward, you have to contact us. Why? Because we don't have your number, your email, or your IP address. Remember, you are anonymous, so you have to contact us back. Once we have confirmed with law enforcement that your tip resulted in an arrest, the recovery of stolen property, or the recovery of illegal drugs, we determine the amount of the reward by using a points system. The more points, the higher the reward. The number of charges, the type of charges, and property, drugs recovered all increase the reward amount. The reward for a warrant arrest for trespassing or theft is not going to be as much as it would be for an arrest for robbery or murder. The more serious the crime, the higher the reward. We will direct you to a local bank where you can pick up your reward in cash. We have a system in place where you do not have to show your ID or sign anything at the bank. You will receive your reward in cash. To give you an idea of what Heartland Crime Stoppers has done in the last 3 years alone, that's 2013, 14, and 15, I'd like to share these stats with you. We received 6,519 tips. From those tips, 589 arrests were made. We approved $230,000 in total rewards. We recovered property valued at $206,000, and drugs recovered were valued at $200,000. That's a total recovery of drugs and property of $406,000. Now, these cases have been cleared, and criminals have been held accountable for their criminal actions by someone like you leaving an anonymous tip with Heartland Crime Stoppers. We cover Polk, Hardy, and Highlands counties. You can leave an anonymous tip on any unsolved crime or any ongoing criminal activity. The crime or the person does not have to be profiled on our website or on any law enforcement website or in the newspaper. If someone is committing a crime or has committed a crime, you can leave an anonymous tip with Crime Stoppers. Remember, it's a crime, and you can help make sure they don't get away with it.